One piece of information was enough to cause nervous reactions in the Middle East. The American aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln entered the Arabian Sea and was within striking distance of Iran. As a result, airlines suspended flights to countries in the region en masse, and Tehran began issuing threats against the United States and Israel. Donald Trump himself did not cool down the emotions, but in his usual style, only heated them up.
You know, we have a lot of ships going that direction, just in case. We have a big flotilla going in that direction, and we'll see what happens. A big force. We have a big force going toward Iran. I'd rather not see anything happen, but we're watching them very closely.
This is a significant reinforcement of the U.S. military presence in the region. These units are capable of large-scale force projection. The administration in Washington talks about deterrence and readiness to respond. Tehran's response was obvious. We pay no attention to Donald Trump's boasts. He knows perfectly well that any hand raised against our leader will be decisively and courageously cut off. And this is not just rhetoric, but we will set their world on fire. We will deprive them of any sense of security and leave them no safe place. According to initial cautious reports, up to 6,000 people have been killed by the regime in protests that, although on a much smaller scale, are still ongoing in Iran. Regime television officially reports more than 3,000 deaths.
We may not know the exact number because of the internet blackout, but by any plausible estimate, this is the worst mass murder in the contemporary history of Iran. Our beautiful country has become a cemetery in which the hopes of our youth are buried.
It was reports not only of the victims of the protests themselves, but also of the ongoing show trials and tens of thousands of arrests that prompted the White House to send such a large force to the region.
Killing on the streets of Iran may have subsided, but the brutality continues. The violent repression of the Iranian people does not solve any of the country's problems. On the contrary, it creates conditions for further human rights violations, instability and bloodshed.
And although it is difficult today to get a realistic picture of what is happening in Iran, the few voices that emerge from behind the regime's curtain clearly indicate the sentiment within the country. If an attack were to take place, I would say that probably almost 80% of the population would be happy about it. Against the backdrop of these events, a new U.S. security strategy is taking shape. It calls for strengthening the ability to rapidly project force, greater military flexibility, and a clear signal that the U.S. is ready to defend its interests in any region of the world. The Middle East remains one of the key areas of this strategy, but Russia is also included in it. Moscow has been identified as a permanent but manageable threat to NATO members on the eastern flank. In light of this, the U.S. Department of War ensures that U.S. armed forces will be ready to defend against Russian threats to the U.S. The department will also continue to play a key role within NATO itself, even as it adjusts the presence and activities of U.S. forces in the European theater to better reflect the Russian threat to U.S. interests and the capabilities of our allies. China is at the top of the U.S. defense strategy priority list. Both diplomatic and military actions show that Washington is preparing for long-term rivalry and, in an extreme scenario, confrontation. In this context, Venezuela, Iran, and Russia are seen as countries that, in the event of a conflict with Beijing, could destabilize the situation in other regions of the world, forcing the U.S. to divert its forces and attention. In military jargon, what the Americans are doing today is clearing the ground before a battle that now seems inevitable.